at the dawn of a transformation in the Canadian political scene, at least in principle. We have the spectacle of new leadership arising after Trudeau on the Liberal side. It's the day before the leadership race for the Liberals finalizes, and the heir presumptive is clearly Mark Carney. And I finished reading and analyzing rather deeply, I would say, Mark Carney's value book, which Canadians should know about and read even, especially the first couple and last couple of chapters. And I've got some questions about that maybe you can help me sort through. So one of the things that Mr. Carney says in his book, after outlining what he thinks Canadians' shared values are, which is a very dubious, what would you say? He makes a very dubious set of arguments, which for reasons that I'll go into, but one of his more remarkable claims is relevant to our discussion of these two legs. Okay, so we haven't done too badly on the resource and manufacturing side, even though that's dated. We need to maintain what we have there, and we need to develop this other attitude. But one of the things Carney says very forthrightly is that all of our financial institutions are going to have to be retooled in relationship to the catastrophe of climate change, and that 80% of the fossil fuels that are part of what fuels Canada's economy are going to have to stay in the ground. And so Carney is planning to continue the terrible pressure that Trudeau has put on Canada's traditional economy, and to magnify that because he's a much more effective administrator and manager than Trudeau. And there's not anything in his book, not one word that deals with any of the things that you've discussed today. And so what we have in the spectacle of Carney is someone who thinks that the economy that we already have has to be replaced by some magical new economy that will somehow be both productive and clean, and who doesn't seem to be aware at all of any of the problems that you've described, conceptually or practically. He doesn't address the fact of Canada's failing productivity. It's as hollow and empty a book as I've ever had the misfortune to read. And so that seems to be, but the problem is, and this is maybe somewhat contrary to your proclamation that Trump's maneuvering has been counterproductive, is Canadians seem to be rallying behind the Liberals. They were cataclysmically low in the polls, and now they're at something approaching parity. And so, that's the spectacle on the Carney side. And then, we have as the primary alternative to that, Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives. And so, enough of a rant on Carney from me. I'm curious as to, you're not a particularly partisan person from what I've observed. You are more comfortable in the realm of concept and idea and practicalities. And so I'm very curious about how you see the current situation with regard to Canadian leadership.
I don't belong to any party, and I've given no money to either party.
Okay.
So, and one thing we haven't put on the table, which is very important in our structural conversation, we talked about the knowledge-based economy of IP, and that's followed by a data-driven economy that's data and AI, and that has become this new factor of productivity where it's replacing the human, it's controlling the human, and that's turbocharged this era of intangibles, which is intellectual property, knowledge enclosure, and then data and AI, which is the control of this factor of production, which is really changing everything. And also, by the way, the largest filing of IP is in AI with 1.5 million patents granted to date. And that's very important as I critique these two political options for Canada, that we have to, when you talk about the things I talk about, we haven't fully unpacked the AI and how it's replacing human capacity and augmenting human capacity. But I think everyone agrees it's a monster factor of production. It's changing all the rules. It's putting trillions of dollars in the economy.
It's going to change the white collar economy completely.
And you gotta have something there. Right?
Yeah.
So that's fine. Okay, so you mentioned about Carney, then you mentioned about Poilievre.
Yeah.
And I did too read his book because I'm interested in public policy. Mm-hmm. As people you've mentioned, you and I are active in Washington. I'm active in Brussels, and I'm also active nationally and subnationally
And provincially.
Canada, well, subnationally, provincially.
Yeah.
And I absolutely see myself as a Canadian, and I always think of Canada when I try to engage in these things, and I'm a passionate Canadian. So a couple, three things in Carney. He's positioning himself as an outsider when he's been an advisor to Trudeau since 2020, and he's chairman of his economic task force. Right. But most importantly,
So he's not an outsider.
Well, most importantly, he's been a charter member of the Orthodoxy of Ottawa for decades.
Yeah.
So all this thinking structure, and I'm going to get very specific on how Bank of Canada has been a central actor in selling Canada short in these decades, because they've been the keepers of this orthodoxy. And he's been as governor of Central Bank. He's been, prior to that, he was in Finance Canada. He's been advised. So he's got to own the Ottawa thinking.
Right, and not as a follower, but as an architect.
An architect.
Right.
So here's the two or three things on Mark Carney's book that I read. One, he talks a lot about pricing carbon to affect a transition. And then he's come out with his new policies to subsidize things like heat exchangers and various forms of technology to green your homes and stuff, very specifically. And so what happens is that when you look at Canada, its good terms of trade, I explained terms of trade earlier, its best terms of trade are in energy. That's where we get good money. That's where it pays for the country. Mm-hmm. Our weakest terms
energy defined primarily on the fossil fuel side.
Fossil fuel, hydrocarbons.
Right. We're not talking about the renewable side.
Hydrocarbons. Consumption and export of hydrocarbons overwhelmingly pays for this country.
Right. So we have a fossil fuel economy in large part.
That's good terms of trade.
On the good terms of trade side.
I'm speaking technically.
Yeah, okay.
We have a deficit in intellectual property. And that would be much more if we included data and AI. And we're major importers of intellectual property and technology products. So we have poor terms of trade in the technology arena. In spite of all the things we invent, the smart people, the government funding over decades.
And the effectiveness of that even.
Well, that's the issue is we're first world in inputs, third world in outcomes.
Right.
And there's not, and today in this conversation, we're unpacking why. Yeah. But I'm going to stay on this orthodoxy of Mr. Carney. Yeah. So we have very good terms of trade in hydrocarbons, very poor terms of trade in technology products. Yep. And so his proposition is that we tax the things that we sell and we subsidize the things that we buy.
Right.
So if you want to affect a green transition, and you have this structure, that's called a dichotomy. You have to choose between the economy, paying for the place, or the environment in his structural view of the world of scarce natural capital that we have to deal with. And I'm not making a normative comment. I'm just talking economically here. Okay. So his prescription will make us poorer.
Success in business isn't just about offering an amazing product or service, though that's certainly essential. What truly sets thriving companies apart is having powerful, reliable tools working behind the scenes to streamline every aspect of the selling process. These are the systems that turn the complex challenge of reaching customers and processing sales into something that feels effortless and natural. That's exactly where Shopify enters the picture, transforming the way businesses operate in the digital age. Nobody does selling better than Shopify. They're home to the #1 checkout on the planet. And here's the game changer. With Shop Pay, they're boosting conversions up to 50%. That means fewer abandoned carts and more sales going to your bottom line. In today's world, your business needs to be everywhere your customers are, whether that's scrolling through social media, shopping online, or walking into a physical store. Shopify powers it all, seamlessly connecting your business across the web, your store, customer feeds, and everywhere in between. And here's the truth. Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Join over 2 million entrepreneurs who have already discovered the power of unified commerce with Shopify's all-in-one platform. Upgrade your business to the same checkout we use with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/JBP, all lowercase. Head to shopify.com/JBP to upgrade your selling today. That's shopify.com/JBP.
Okay, so let me take that apart, because you say things so calmly when they're actually cataclysmic that it's hard to get the right emotional impact. So
this is not normative. This is
I
economics.
Understand.
This is economics 101.
Yeah, okay. So the claim that you're making is that the best performance that Canada has managed economically is on the hydrocarbon side.
Correct.
Now, Carney's not very happy about the hydrocarbon side because of what he describes as externalities, let's say carbon.
Well, he thinks there's scarce natural capital, and he wants to transition to a green economy.
Right.
Which is what we're going to go to in the next part of this discussion.
Right. Okay. So, but the transition is going to be fostered in principle by making what we're good at far more expensive,
and thus less,
and making what we're bad at cheaper.
And thus we'll import what we're bad at.
Right.
And we'll export what we're good at. That's right.
Right.
Which is a path towards
40 cents to the American